We're just 6 hours away from the launch of Phase 4 in the server that I am playing on inside of Once Human. And the phases are exactly what I wanted to talk about today. Because Phase 3 launched about a week ago on this server. And you can see in the description here, it reads, "The giant's tentacles sensed the mayfly's presence, summoning its minions in their droves to eradicate the pest." If you watched the video I made last week, we were speculating that there may be some sort of visuals going on in the sky, maybe even some sort of gameplay changes in the sense of some more zombies spawning in places you wouldn't expect them to. But as it turns out, nothing happened. Nothing has changed. Nothing that I've noticed anyways. As a matter of fact, now that I look at it, I'm fairly certain that the first paragraph for each phase is in fact lore rather than any sort of content that's meant to be coming into the game. If you look at phase 1, it says the sky was shrouded in gloom as though the sun had been obscured by the hand of a giant. Among the clouds, the silhouette of a tentacle emerged. That is very clearly just some lore going on there, with phase 2 reading, "The Staroid harbors the mystery of the Great Ones, extending their influence far and wide, an influence that can only be purified using the restrainer." Again, that's very clearly lore related. Nothing happened in the game that was related to that. So when we're looking at what sort of new content is coming into these phases, the first paragraph does not play into it at all. So for phase 3, the hard mode Prime War and the hard mode dungeons were unlocked, as well as an acquisition multiplier increase for some basic supplies. They say all areas unlocked, but I think this is misleading. I think what they're referring to here is the fact that the areas in which the hard mode Prime Wars are located can now be accessed. You manage to get a key from completing an easy mode Prime War. I believe you need to get the third chest to get the key. I'm not 100% sure. And this kind of causes a lot of problems to happen inside of the game, especially when we look at phase 4, which has its lore read, "The Staroids have been subdued one by one, setting off a massive ripple of stardust across the world and alerting the powerful familiars on the distant side of the globe." That's just the lore though. Content-wise, we're looking at a pro mode Prime War and a pro mode dungeon, some blueprints being unlocked in the Wish Machine, as well as another acquisition multiplier increase. Essentially what this has done to Once Human is it's made its content density plateau. If I were to put it into a graph, it would look like this. And with this first season being so short, having a plateau like this is really noticeable. There is a bit of a saving grace here inside of phase 5. The lore reads, "The roar of the stardust infuriated the Great Ones, and at last it ripped through the heavens, thrusting its tentacles down through the clouds, annihilating every living creature on the ground and even the earth itself." The new content here is set to be a close encounter with Manubis, as well as the Nightmare Mode Prime War being unlocked. They say that you will be able to challenge the Manubis in the Frontier and Wilderness Public Crisis event. So we could potentially be looking at a graph that would look more like this as we, round out this season. But I don't think that takes away from people's complaints of phase 3 and phase 4 being very lackluster. In my opinion, though, this graph is slightly misleading because the first chunk of upward content progression here is a good 40 hours of content, especially with the way they spread it out throughout the weeks. Just progressing through the main storyline and finishing, a bare minimum amount of side quests, it took me a good 40 hours. And then the plateau phase here is not entirely devoid of content. There is a lot of grinding and upgrading and looting and shooting that you can do inside of this plateau phase. Overall, I've spent like 90 something hours into the game, and I've just now gotten to the point where I'm finished with all of the story. I've got the gear that I want. I've got more supplies than I need. So for phase 3 and phase 4 so far, it's just been, running around, finishing the early game side quests, buying all of the house blueprints sold from the various vendors across the map, all of like the little things inside of the game. But all of that does add up. You know, I've put 96 hours into the game, even inside of the plateau, and it's only now where I'm really starting to notice it and doing some digging. I'm not the only one who's complaining about it, though it's really not hard to get people playing nowadays, and I'm not complaining. This graph to me isn't a big deal. We are in season 1 of Once Human, and the developers are definitely going to learn from season 1 and expand on what they learned to make season 2 and beyond even better. That's just a given. I'm still really excited for season 2 and beyond, especially considering the fact that the developers have been taking into account and considering some of the feedback in regards to the season's lengths. I'm really excited to see where they decide to go with that. But moving back to this graph quickly, I don't just want to throw this out here and bring up the complaints about it without talking about some possible solutions here. And for me, it would be pretty simple, because the content density inside of the Dayton wetlands and the Broken Delta and the Iron River is like 4 times that of Chalk Peak and the Red Sands combined. When you are exploring inside of any of these 3 starter zones, you almost become sidetracked when moving from quest to quest with other quests and other buildings and other areas to go explore. Yet when you get up to Chalk Peak, it is a lot more spread out. You can clearly see the content and the density shift. And then when you get into the Red Sands, it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 points of interest on the entirety of this Red Sands area. So the solution for me would be to spread the content or fill the gap. And what I mean by spread the content is a lot of the quests that were on the first 3 regions could have easily been moved over into Chalk Peak and served a purpose down in this lower region or something like that. And not to mention that I want to say over half of the deviants are unlocked in these first 3 regions, which I think could have very easily been spread out into different activities inside of Chalk Peak as well as Red Sands. Red Sands really needed some love and some extra activity to do. And I'm not even saying that they needed to add quests to this area. I think that they could have moved some of these quests to the higher level area and just had it play out in that area. And that would have made this less dense, sure, but it would have filled this out more and made the graph look more like this, which is what we're going for. Like I said earlier though, I'm still incredibly excited for season 2 and beyond of Once Human, especially when it comes to the season length. I'm gonna throw out a bit of a random speculation for anybody who's managed to make it this far into the video. I may even possibly make an entirely separate video talking about what I think the future of Once Human might end up looking like. But the way I see it playing out now is that season 2, we're not even going to be playing down here. We're going to be playing up here. It's going to be unlocking this area, all of mountains up in this area, and then season 3 is going to be locking probably this and then all of this, and then maybe even some further generated land over there, right? As for length of those seasons, I have no idea, but when it comes to season 4, I believe that they will be opening up the entirety of the map, and we will be playing here as well as up here as well as over here. Now that is just complete speculation. Let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about that. If you'd be interested in me making a video specifically dedicated to talking about what they may possibly do, be sure to let me know down in the comments. Also, if you made it this far in the video, comment "made it" down below so I can give you an extra shout out. But really, that is all of the information that I wanted to go over inside of this video. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I'm out.